Just talk. Just talk. Just talk. Happy birthday. Happy day 2. Pre-game birthday celebration. Oh my god. I had like the best almost birthday yesterday. Whoop. Today was even better. I got my first of 2 Hugo Boss paychecks. Well, technically a paycheck and expense reimbursement. What I feel is long overdue. But it is what it is. It's good. It's actually like encouraging to see that my persistence in standing up for what I believe in has the capacity to work out in really interesting ways. A little too well, but I also believe that God Almighty Hashem was on my side. Actually, I know. It's not a question I believe, it's I know. I see it like a pat on the back. Good boy. Good boy for investing time in actually trying to understand and study the Torah. I appreciate you. Appreciate you too, God. And speaking of the Torah, I had like such the fucking breakthrough today with that. I finished Leviticus. I finished Leviticus last night. And started reading Numbers. Numbers is dope. The book of Numbers is actually really cool if you're into inventory management and human resource management. It gets really detailed. God is very organized, like structure. So Numbers. Numbers starts off after Moses receives all of the law, right? So once he's done up in Sinai, they're like, all right, time to get going. All right, how do we do this? Don't worry. God's got it. And Hashem does, in fact, have a most amazing plan. Start off by a head count. Get everybody organized by tribe. How many people are in each tribe? How many tribes do we got? We got to separate them. Who's the chief of each one? A lot of social structuring. And societal hierarchical systems. It's interesting. Everything's laid out very strategically. But it really only demonstrates like the top of the pyramid. Well, it starts from the top and works its way down. That actually makes sense. You build it flat first and then you go up. First you gotta start with the center point. Once you know where the center point is, then you can, right? Is that how it's marked? This is how it's just kind of explaining itself in my mind. How do you build a pyramid? How do the Egyptians build a pyramid? The same way that the Jews built Judaism. It's like one of those rector sets. Sort of? That makes sense? Like, I guess you need a skeleton first. Like, the image I'm seeing in my mind is a square that's divided into 4 jointed faces, and then kind of like you grab the center point and then you pull up, and it's kind of goes from a square to a pyramid. The fuck would that work? I don't know. I think this is one of those things you have to see to believe it. I mean, it doesn't not make sense. The logistics on it seem a little bit wonky, but I mean that's kind of the whole God thing. I trust. Oh, it's gonna work. How the fuck would it work out? Hashem's on the job. Who's Hashem? Oh, just the extraterrestrial God consciousness that exists within the Ark of the Covenant. Or Ark of the Pact, however you want to pronounce it. But yeah, no, Book of Numbers, I think I only read maybe like 4 or 5 chapters in it. And like I said, it gets into it's all about people resource management. It's like the human resources portion of the book. Who goes where, who does what, who's in charge of this, who's in charge of that, who does the breakdown, who does the build-up. Because everybody gets a job. I mean, again, we're just talking from the top. I don't know what the tribes do. I know they got to sit on the outskirts. I haven't gotten that far yet. Maybe the further I get into the book, it'll start getting into the specific roles that each of the 12 tribes. The only tribe that I know of is the Levites. That's like the middle management. Those are like the regional managers. They take care of the, I don't want to say the menial stuff. I should have enough. Find out. Hello. Hey, Jack Green, please.
Dark blue or no?
No, Jack Green.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Just German product?
Super.
Or the rare different?
Okay, 1343, go ahead.
I'm trying to quick cut back.
Okay.
Smoking that?
Gotten down to 2 a day, so
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Hang on.
Thank you. Probably got like a hot dog or something. Grab one of them.
I should have officially 1 penny in my bank account right now. I woke up this morning to see how much was in my bag after last night. My friend gifted me some birthday money to treat myself. And I had enough for a pack of cigarettes, Taco Bell, and that was it. DoorDash Taco Bell, not just regular Taco Bell. Fuck. It's been a while. So this morning I woke up and I saw I had just enough money with 1 penny left over to get another pack of cigarettes. And I got surprised with an overnight check, which was good, which comes in handy. But it's like good. The timing is good. I got to learn some incredibly valuable lessons about money. Where it comes from, how it likes to be treated. Basically laying some ground rules. Did you know that the shekel, as far as I'm aware, was the first currency? How did they use it? I don't understand. It was measured by weight. It was a measurement of weight. It wasn't necessarily a dollar value as much as measurement of an object's mass. Typically silver, copper, I would imagine gold too. I mean, that was then. I mean, now shekels still exist. Israel still uses shekels, but it's paper and coins. It's not the same as what it was. Spirit's there, but it's taken on a different form. Which actually makes some sense, pun intended. Because it gives at least a historical view of how money has evolved over time. If you're into that sort of thing. So basically what it demonstrates is that money started out as a weight. And that weight, I guess, I don't want to say predetermined value as much as, well, you know, that's what they kind of got into at the end of Leviticus. Granted, they're talking about selling people and livestock, but I mean, the principle's still the same. Look at a human being as a commodity instead of a living thing. Which it is sense. I mean, in a way, makes sense. I mean, it's just like getting any other job. It's like getting into any other corporation or fraternity. Like, you gotta pay dues. Everybody has a value of some sort. Maybe not necessarily. I'm just talking about wages. That's possible. No, I don't think so. Well, I mean, it is a religion that evolved out of slavery. What's that? Religion. I wouldn't say that. Mindset? Philosophy? Theosophy? I don't know how you'd explain it. I mean, yeah, there's the religious side to it, but yeah, it takes on a different form if you just try to accept that Moses was the real deal and he really was receiving messages from some higher power that he didn't fully understand, but he learned how to trust, to take guidance from. That's a good way of putting it. But, I mean, it does have a vision. It does show that God has an idea of what he wants. Which is not a bad idea. It's not a bad thing. I mean, if you know what you want, it's easy to put it together, right? Does that make sense?
Y sabe que le pedí todo eso fue la media cosa, que esa amiga tenía y llegué ayer. Entonces ayer no sabía caso, no le dije nada a mi familia, porque antes le diga a mi familia, me dice,
Or buy the bike trail. Yeah, it's very diverse.
y yo no le dije nada, yo llegué y hice, no, la cogí, y no le dije nada. Y dije, voy a hacer ejercicio, vaya, y no, no, no.
I found a fucking joint today. On my walk. I went to go to the bank to deposit my check. And then I wanted to go ruminate on the implications of everything I had been learning from Numbers, from the book of Numbers. And yeah, I had some ideas. Yeah, I had some actually really good ideas, which I haven't had a chance to write down yet because smoking pot cranked up my anxiety really bad, really good, really awesome. Man, I take a lot of these concepts and to kind of break them down in an intuitive way. Got to look at things from both sides of the fence. Meaning, how could it work out? And how could it fuck up? And then, why it's not possible to fuck up because of the fact that it works. How do we know it works? Because there are still Jews today. Can't deny that. Still going strong. Hebrew Nation is nuts to be fucked with. But if you study their history, our history? I like to say our history. I believe want to say I know, but I feel like that's I'm pretty sure I know that you have to be part of the actual bloodline in order to understand some of the more minute details that are being demonstrated. But I mean, who knows, maybe it's just me. I mean, there's Jewish scholars that have been at this for fucking thousands and thousands of years. If you ever look into the Talmud, the book of Jewish law, that's something. That's a lot. I crammed about 7.5 hours worth to about 3.5 hours of time. Spread out. I mean, it's a lot of information that requires deeper contemplation. But the overall general theme is rabbinical law kind of takes precedence over everything else, but it has a way of doing it. Like, it supersedes certain laws because the laws in question are derivatives thereof. If that makes sense. I mean, when I read this, I love talking about this book, Jewish Wisdom for Business Success. And the major theme of the book is how to translate the insights of the Torah into your business life, or into your own business. I mean, granted, it cherry picks some stories with some anecdotal evidence to back it up. Well, firsthand Jewish experience backing it up. But they're more like examples. Like one of the big ideals, principles, themes is to not be afraid to take risks. Heavy ones. Even when it seems counterintuitive. Almost, especially when it seems counterintuitive. And the more the word terrifying comes to my mind, but I think the more hopeless the more hopeless it seems, the better the chances are. For instance, like Moses leading the Jews out of Egypt. That was an impossible situation, technically. Because it wasn't just Moses standing up to Pharaoh by himself. God was using Moses to perform miracles that were not unlike what the Pharaoh's magicians and high priests were capable of replicating. But it got to a point, because they didn't believe what he was saying. They thought it was all magic. They thought he was just playing tricks, basically. So, there's no way he just did that on his own. He's just dabbling in dark arts. Which, in a sense, he was, but where God lives, in the dark. It's his mission for his people is salvation through suffrage, in a sense. That's one way to look at it. In the sense that what does not kill you only makes you stranger. Because you gotta be really strange to be able to appreciate the sequence of events that took place that saved your ass. How the fuck that happened? And it's not like Christianity, where you're asked to take all of the... You're allowed to pat yourself on the back. From how I understand it. It's team effort.
Mira, mama, hay que...
Kind of like, team effort. Like, God and Moses teamed up to get shit done, and they got it done. So now the thing with rabbinical law, what makes it such a feisty... What makes it so feisty is that rabbinical law gives all the power to the rabbis, where they literally have the power to overrule God. Something I learned from the Talmud, from studying the Talmud, which is actually something that there was a story that the rabbi was telling. It's a mitzvah? Yeah, it's called a mitzvah. A mishnah? Mitzvah or mishnah? But the Talmud is basically a written breakdown of the law as given to Moses. It's an interpretation. So there's the law of the Torah, but hey, keep in mind, it was written a long time ago. Things change. So over time, over the course of thousands of years, there was a lot of discussions and debates over what means what, why it means that, who's right, who's wrong, who gets the most say, how do we determine when to change something, when not to change something, and it's majority rules. It's not like majority rules, it's majority rules. That's the name of the game. That's what they said. But there's this one mitzvah mishnah about Torah scholars, and one of the rabbis, I forget his name, believed he was the Moshiach, the Messiah, and Moshiach. He said, "Hey, watch, I'll show you," and he started performing all of these wild feats, and the rabbis. And I think really the way I interpreted it was this guy was so dead set on who and what he was that he wasn't letting the issue drop. It even got to, so he kept on performing these miracles, and eventually it even got to the point where the voice of God came down from heaven and said to the rabbis, This is the man, he's showing you all of these things. And the rabbis, they decided, no, he's not. Well, I said, even God looked down and goes, even my rabbis, they defeated him. Meaning that they weren't willing to bend the law just because somebody could perform certain feats doesn't mean that he is the one that they were waiting for. Probably, and mind you, this was a fucking hour class. And I personally don't read Hebrew, not to the degree that a rabbi can. I read it differently. I don't know the Hebrew vocabulary to that extent. I'm familiar with the letters. I know how to work with letters. I know why certain words are spelled exactly the way that they are and why they mean what they do based on the letters used to express those concepts. I think that's really what it is. It's like it's an alien language because the basic principles are the same. Say an apple, I say apple, you think apple, right? But I say guitar, you go, what the fuck is that? Oh, guitar is a crown. So of course, what do you think of first when you think of a crown? A fucking crown you put on your head. But there's other ways to interpret that. For instance, crown chakra, guitar, the word guitar is typically associated with what Eastern and Western spirituality would recognize, maybe Eastern. Well, I mean, it's in Western now, so it's a lot of cross-contamination. But what they would associate with the crown chakra, as in like the invisible energy portal through which God transmits messages down to his walking, talking antenna. But at the same time, when you spell it, I mean, in English, you would spell it Keter, which is just kind of like the pronunciation of it. When you break down the Hebrew, then it kind of takes on like a whole different picture. So the crown, it's made up of 3 letters. Kaf, which makes a K sound. Tav, Tau, makes a T sound. And then a Rush, Resh. You ever play Skyrim? Ever play Skyrim? The fucking the Dragonborn who could he can manipulate his voice in such a way to replicate a dragon's voice. Wolf! Fucking says shit and then just magical stuff happens. Breathes fire, pushes things. Hebrew is one way to read it. It's really just like powerful. So those 3 letters, those 3 symbols, it's what they represent that tells a picture. So as you read the word, as you say the word, what you're doing is you're kind of invoking that concept. Magic. But I don't know if they would call it magic. They might not. But each letter has a value to it. Has a symbolic value to it. Right? So, Kaf. Pronounce it K-A-P-H. Kaf. Right? So it represents a forehead. Or a head. Tav, the letter Tav, makes a T sound, yeah, but it also has a symbolic value of a cross. It's the mark of the covenant. And then Resh is a fist. So the way I see it, you put all those concepts together, and what I see in my mind is an image. I see a baptism. And you bring a baby to get baptized, dunk the baby's head in the water, fucking dunk him. But then the priest puts oil on his thumb and kind of makes the sign of the cross on the forehead, sealing the deal. So the idea is, one, in order to even open that channel, open up that crown, you have to kind of make, in a sense, a covenant with that which you wish to communicate with, that which you wish, or that which wishes to communicate through you. It's like you're being baptized into, initiated into a secret club that only you and God get to be a part of. I don't know how many other people see these things that way. This is just based on my own research into things that don't exist. Well, obviously they exist, but they're fascinating subjects. Especially once a connection can actually be made and trust can be built and a relationship is formed. You're cahooting with demons. Yeah, that's nothing new. I've been doing that for years. God is new. God is completely uncharted territory for me. But I've been doing a lot of Torah study. Hey, past couple weeks. I didn't learn Hebrew in the past couple weeks. I've been doing this for over 5 years. It's not like my main focus of study because it's a lot. And two, there's not many resources. I only know one resource that teaches it the way that I know how to read, which is not like other resources, as far as I know. Perfectly honest, I don't even know if people read it that way. It could be just something that my autistic mind picked up and just intuitively figured out how to read it like a fucking pro. And granted, not every word works like that, but it's not the only one. So you go to a synagogue, right? You walk up to the synagogue, you see a sign. I don't know, if you lived in the parts of New Jersey where I've lived, sometimes synagogues are like commonplace. So basically, you drive by a fucking synagogue, there's a sign out front that says Bethel. What the fuck does that mean? Who the fuck is Beth? Oh. Beth. Who is Beth? Beth is the second letter of the Hebrew alphabet. Makes a B sound. It's actually bait. Well, I mean, some people I've heard it pronounced bait. I've read that it was pronounced bait. But then I've seen other people pronounce it as Beish. Base? Beish? I don't know. Makes a B sound. It's also the number 2. Represents the number 2. It's not necessarily the quantity of 2, though it can be, I suppose. And I'm not an expert in Hebrew gematria, but I'm not unfamiliar with it. There's ways about it. But Beit El. B-E-T-H, that's one word. L is the next word. That's what it looks like in English. E-L. So B-E-T-H, capital B-E-T-H, space, capital E-L. Beit El. What's it say? Well, you have to understand what those words mean, because they represent something. B-E-T-H is just the English equivalent of the symbol bait. Because they don't use They don't use they use symbols. It's like hieroglyphics, basically. Fucking damn it, people. And hieroglyphics mean something. When you put them together, they make words, and the words mean stuff. But they, like I said, is the second letter of the alphabet. It's like a B. But symbolic value is a house. So it's supposed to bring to mind the image of a house. And not just like a regular people house, like an enclosure. I mean, there are enclosures, but this is more like a structural building, home. And then the word L.
Oh, yeah.
Doing good. Then the word L, I think it's technically Aleph. Lamad. It means it's one of the names of God. El. It's like how all the angels are sons of God, and every single one of their names end in El. Michael, Gabriel, Raphael, Samael, Zadkiel, Zadkiel, Amiel. Well, each one of their names, it means something like God. So Michael, I know Michael means he who is like God. Then Samael means blind to God, poison of God. Because the angels, they're all his sons, his children. There's female archangels too, that's the whole thing. Arakai. Every female, I just learned about them. Female archangels all have a male counterpart, and all the males have a female counterpart. I think, I could be wrong, but as far as I understand, like this is something that's really just starting to emerge. Because each one represents a characteristic, mindset, aspect, a piece of God. You can think of like the angels as individual fractals of the greater whole. Each one has a job that it does, set of characteristics that it, set of programming that it follows, operates in a certain way. Some of them are more specialized to handle specific matters over others. The same thing with working with any other kind of non-human entities. Each one has a value, a lesson, a strength and a weakness to teach, exploit. Well, it's really kind of fascinating stuff. That's how deep you want to go with it. But they said Bethel means house of God. The letters L, I mean the letters that make up L, I believe it's Aleph, Lamet, I'm pretty sure. Aleph is the first letter of the alphabet. It's associated with the letter A. It's silent, but it can be used. It's the only silent letter, which is why God put it first, because it knew how to keep its mouth shut. That's the story. When God was looking for which letter to put at the front of the pack, chose Aleph, because Aleph was the only one that kept silent. He was humble. Left. What does it symbolize? That's. How you guys doing? It's a little complex because it's said to represent an ox. Like a steer, like a work animal, cattle, basically. I mean, I think there's a little bit more to it. Aleph is also the breath that, the life that God breathed into Adam. You look at it like that too. And then Lamed is like, it's not a walking stick per se, it's more of a shepherd's staff. Yeah, that's actually, the literal translation is a staff, shepherd's staff. So I guess the way we can kind of like picture that, what I'm seeing in my mind, kind of synthesizing those two concepts together, it's, since El comes first and Lamed comes second, it's almost as if the shepherd is shepherded by the word, breath of God. The reason, what about the ox? Okay, that's what I'm saying. This gets a little complex. Like an ox with a yoke on it that you would use for farming. Does that make sense? But what does it do? It moves forward. It doesn't make a sound. You kind of just pull it along, and it kind of just plows. It doesn't go backwards. It just moves forward. It's not a passive energy. It's an active energy in that it plows forward. It moves from point A to point B. Just as the alphabet moves forward from Aleph, kind of the pack animal, the cattle, the plowing ox is dragging the rest of the alphabet behind it. Kind of like a train. Yeah, like a train. Yeah, a train. I think a train. Yeah, they didn't have trains back then, but I think that would be a really good equivalent. Like if you can imagine the concept behind how a train works. The basics. Not gotta put it. Fuel in it. I mean, you can break it down, but you can't break it down like that because realistically, the alphabet itself is meaningless unless you have some kind of fuel to give it life. I mean, if you don't give a shit about it, it's not gonna move for you. It's not gonna move you. There has to be a catalyzing agent, like an interest. You have to have some kind of interest in it. Or even calling, drawn to needing to know how and why this works, but then being able to take those concepts and basically define them for yourself. You gotta consider that. Like there's another letter, Vav. Vav kind of looks like an upside down golf club.